Welcome to another episode of Corporate CPR, where we breathe life back into your organization, projects, and processes, giving you insights to recovery and avoiding corporate mortality events. Today, we'll be talking about disruptive technologies, and joining us to contribute to the conversation is Valeria Kogan. Welcome.
Hi.
Would you like to share a little bit more about your background before we get started?
Yes, sure. My name is Valeria. My background is in applied maths. I've been always keen on science and wanted to become a scientist and a researcher. And I worked in academia for a while, doing my studies in bioinformatics. Completed my PhD in Israel a while ago. And in parallel, I've always been interested into bringing the technology that we develop as scientists to the market and creating a real product that people use. So I've been working for a while in different startups, leading AI development teams. My main background and expertise is in biotech and medtech, and I'm a founder of a company called Smartomica, which develops solutions for analysis of large amounts of data to identify treatment for the patients with severe cancer stages. And also I'm a founder of a company called Fermata, which is very different from that, but also involves diagnostics, but not of the patients, but of the plants. So yeah, that's my background.
Oh, great. We're so glad to have you today. So, we're going to talk about disruptive technologies, and obviously, those seem to be coming faster and faster these days as we become more technologically advanced. I'd be curious maybe to kick off the conversation by talking about how companies should be reacting as new technologies come into the mainstream. Like, how should they approach them in assessing whether it's something that's here to stay and they should adopt, or if they should, not chase like the shiny tinfoil syndrome, where they're just out there chasing whatever is the latest fad. So how do you kind of assess disruptive technology and their usefulness?
Well, I'm honestly on the other side of the table, so I can speak from like my startup experience. Yeah. So when I'll probably approach AgTech startup because it's more relevant to what you're asking about, because we had actually a very interesting story here. Agriculture is very non-digitalized area. It's like one of the top where technology it takes a while because people are really conservative. They have a million years traditions of how they do things. And I see a huge change in the industry since we started up until this moment. We founded the company almost 3 years ago. With an idea to bring artificial intelligence to agriculture, to help people treat their plants better, generate more harvest, lose less yield because of late detection of diseases. So that was our concept based on which we created like our product. And when we started talking to the customers, at the beginning, trying to do some customer development and understand their needs, from the farmers, we heard, and from the corporations too, that what artificial intelligence, what you're talking about, we don't need that. We're already really smart, so I've been growing my tomato for with my father and my grandfather and his grandfather. We have a like 300 years family history, and we know a lot, and humanity already knows a lot about how to do that, right? So we don't need you anymore. And it was really frustrating because we believed in technology, and it was really hard to understand whether this is indeed correcting what they're saying, that they really know everything and we cannot bring any value here, or continue believing in our product and saying that we can bring you completely different, not better, but different way to control your plants because of artificial intelligence. So, and I'm happy that we were strong enough to go through the skepticism, and eventually by this moment now, when we see that large corporations and the farmers start slightly being open to the technologies and understand that, for example, they're not really motivated in disruption of their business, yes? And they're not even that much motivated in being more effective because they are okay with how effective they are. But for example, in this area, what happened is that regulations have changed. And now people say a lot that we want to be healthier, we want our food to be healthier, we want to have less chemicals, and the government started controlling these things. And this means that you need to treat your plant better. You cannot just have a lot of chemicals and pesticides on it, and that's it. You have to justify why exactly do you think you need this pesticide. And in some countries already now, you cannot get governmental support in case you don't do that. And here come technology that tells you we can help you solve this issue. So it's very important, I think, to connect the real pain of the customer and sometimes what you feel as a pain and what indeed really doesn't help them make enough money so you can help them be more effective, generate more revenue. They cannot feel that. But when they feel that there is something that actually stops them from working, changes plans, then this is the perfect moment to bring them help. But what's important to have by that moment already a solution. So not just say that, now we'll start the development. Yeah, so it's tricky because you need to be in the right place and in the right time. But definitely it makes sense to start talking to the customers and understand where this application of this solving your pain is.
And how did you, pick, I guess, the farming industry? Because I mean, I think that's a really good example. There are quite a few industries out there that have been somewhat untouched by technology, but could really probably use advantages of it. And here in the states, at least in the states where marijuana is legal, we've seen a lot of more technology enter into that space because of the necessity. They track it from the pod to the sale, so they know exactly where each element came from. So tell me a little bit about how you selected that industry and why you thought that one was a great one for disruption.
So I would be honest, it was pretty random. So there was no long-term plan and strategy in the beginning. I just had a great team of people I've been working with, and I understood what our area of expertise from technological perspective is. And then I just met a friends of mine, which told me that we have a greenhouse. There are these kind of challenges in this greenhouse, and I just realized that what we have developed for the completely different industry can be applied here. And then, but this is just the first step that you make. And then the crucial thing is to really understand how current business is being operated to find this actual point of disruption. So where exactly can this technology change the way how things go? And to do that, you need to be not that skeptical how frequently startuppers are. That's why people hate us from the corporations, right? Because we're like snobbish, very well-educated guys who know all about technology and that will bring here AI, here I don't know, blockchain, and will fix these things. So you need to, with really large with love, come to the client and to the business he's doing, understand it very well, and understand where you can create something new. So, and when we started doing that, we realized that indeed there is a way to do that in agriculture. And you mentioned cannabis. This we in the beginning we chose actually tomatoes. Then we realized that this is technologically really sophisticated, not a great first step, and also people are really, really conservative in this area. And when we started talking to marijuana guys, we realized that in cannabis the situation is different because people are more open to technologies. They have more money actually because this is a marginal crop, and you have more money to invest into some technological things, try this and that, and if it's not success, not a big deal. Okay, you still have money. So this is why at some point first we studied very well, and we constantly continue doing that, how the business is operating, and then try to follow the money.
Do you think if, and I guess an example of agriculture, if the cannabis industry invests first, that there will be technologies that become cheaper for the rest of agriculture to adopt?
I think for some cases, definitely, this is what we already see in some kind of lightning development and things like that. Like people currently invest a lot approaching cannabis growers because they can afford that. They can invest into piloting also, which is important for the small companies to share these risks with the farmer. So this helps you go further into R&D, being in contact with the end customer, and eventually, yeah, of course, everybody's targeting the larger markets, and these are vegetables and things like that.
Hmm. And so, one of the things that I, wonder is about whether or not how much companies should put maybe R&D in their strategy, right? Any company, so that they can, with an environment that changes so much, how do they stay ahead of their competitors? What are your thoughts around making R&D, maybe a budget in companies that haven't done it necessarily before, in an effort to look at what those disruptive technologies might be in their, in their market?
I think it very much depends on type of the company, because as a startup, we're all about R&D, right? So we create this kind of technology. Regarding large corporations, it's more sophisticated because I don't really that much believe in R&D in a big company, because it's very hard. I think if you're doing some kind of AI, it's really hard to hire strong guys into this kind of companies. Just from my personal experience, I think most people are looking for, Facebook, Google, Amazon, or some smaller company where you can bring more value, have more influence on what's going on. So if this is not, if this is a large company which is just setting up a department doing some kind of AI, I think it will be a challenge to recruit really strong guys and explain why they should invest their lives and their careers into making this company bigger and stronger, not getting actually anything in return, except money, of course. But I see that even in our industry, the openness which starts growing in the corporations in working with startups is actually a good thing, because we are much faster than them. So this is actually the only advantage that we have. They have much more money, they have much more people, but we are very flexible and we can easily adopt our development according to their needs, because we are hungry. So I see that there is a huge potential in this kind of collaborations, and I'm happy that more and more industries become open to that.
Are you, just to touch back on what you said to make sure I understand, are you suggesting that the people who are have the capability of building disruptive products are very, I guess, entrepreneurial like, and so they don't want a paycheck for their efforts. They want, I guess, greater meaning and then maybe even greater reward in some sort of investment event or something like that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so. That's why just putting them into existing structure might be really frustrating for this kind of people, because they have completely different mindset. I know that some companies, large companies, they do like a satellite project. Yeah, so you are more or less independent. You are much more flexible. You have more resources in there, meaning decision-making resources. So you're not waiting for
Right.
years till somebody approves your project. This is not how disruption can work. So this is either creating something like that, or both, or making it work with startups in some kind of smart way.
Yeah, here in Denver, we have I can't remember which health insurance company it was, but they started an incubator
Right.
type company that was separate from theirs. Like, obviously, they still owned it, but it had a lot of autonomy. And the idea was so that those people could act like a startup.
Exactly.
Where do you, I mean, we've obviously seen rapid change, over the past 100 years. And it seems to be accelerating at an increasing rate. What are your thoughts around what we'll see in the next 5 years or in this space?
You mean in
Technology in general, yeah. Like, I mean, are we going to just see more of these things that are disruptive that we have to respond to? Like, what do you think, like, the how technology and business will come together even more in the next 5 years?
Well, I believe that there is an obvious already trend that things will be getting closer to each other, and that large companies will be more open to acquiring different technologies. And we see that for some markets, even in AgTech, these are still rare cases, even though you read always in the news like somebody bought somebody for $1 billion, right? But still, this very much depends on the industry. Some industries like e-commerce, there is a boom and you can feel really comfortable there being a technological company integrating with some giant. In the other industry, it's not there yet. And I think that in the next 5 years, we will see that more and more industries will come there, and we will see a lot of digitalization and bringing cutting edge technologies to the new areas.
What are some of the, I guess, maybe challenges or pitfalls you see, um, at that kind of intersection of technology and business? I mean, any negatives, or adverse impacts that you've noticed?
You know what? I'm not sure that this is exactly what you're asking about, but the negative thing that I see as I'm currently mentoring several startups, and I interact with a lot of young entrepreneurs, which are really young, and I see that people, because of the news of how this is currently, shown in media, they really believe in making a bubble instead of making a sustainable company. So you can be really technological, you're small, but there is like unit economist thing. Yes, do one unit and show that it's profitable, and then show people how it scales. This is what I believe is interesting. Yeah, so we bring technology and show how money can come out of that technology. But a lot of people now don't actually feel the value in this, and they believe in a more short stories, and everybody wants to become a unicorn through a different direction, like let's have a lot of customers and show that we have a unique data and we have unique access to these people, and then we will somehow sell it. But they don't have explanation what exactly this data means, how can you make money of this data, why these customers are important. And I think that this creates slightly bad reputation
Hmm.
to the whole, like this kind of interactions. And sometimes when you start talking to the companies, to the larger companies about collaboration, they start checking whether you're really doing the things that you promise. Is it really profitable business, or you're just trying to make some noise around the technology?
So basically, applying strategy to your from the beginning of how you're going to make money and uh, basically contribute instead of this kind of wait and figure it out.
Right. And when I'm talking to them, sometimes I sound to
Mm,
myself like I'm a dinosaur, when I'm talking
mm,
about some kind of financial models and things like that. And they are, come on, we'll have 100 million valuation tomorrow. And I'm like, okay, guys, probably you will have, but I don't know. I just don't feel myself comfortable in this kind of situations. I want to, you first of all do all these things for yourself, right? To show that you can create something really cool, and making profitable business is cool. It's much cooler than just, making some buzz around your name.
right. Well, yeah, and it's like having creativity. You want to be in the clouds, but then you need to have your feet firmly planted on the ground from a business perspective. So, no, that makes sense. So tell me a little bit. I was just curious. How did you end up, studying in math and moving into this industry to begin with? Like, is it something? I mean, to me, it seems like a really challenging environment that requires very smart people. So I don't feel like you can just fall into it. I think, I guess I'm kind of thinking, it took you years of preparation and lead up to be able to be in the space that you're in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I have this, good combination of research background and not too long research career, because I really like creating new things. I think I have passion. I can't imagine doing something that exists, So this is a very special feeling when you're creating something nobody had, like stepping the ground where no one has been yet before you. So
Mhm.
this is the feeling which is driving me. So I really love that. And because of this research background and that I love creating things new. And also I've been in biotech where, the timing before your invention and it being applied to the real life, it can be, I don't know, 20 years. And I really admire people who are okay with that and who just keep creating and creating and creating, and they just enjoy the fact that you found something new. But for me, this is slightly not enough. And I really wanted to see how this thing become products and the product that people use. And that's why I decided to switch into more startup area, and then found like happiness, in at least paralleling things that I'm doing with AgTech, where it's very simple. So from this perspective, so once we have a new feature, created a new I don't know, model that predicts something, and we show it to the client, and the client in a week says, wow, that's cool. And you feel like, this, you really enjoy the moment that you have created something and that it's valuable.
One of the things that, going back to that example of the healthcare company who created the incubator, part of the reason they do that and separate them is because failure is high. And in the corporate world, while we like to say that failure, that we accept failure, I don't think it's as acceptable as it needs to be, in order for the creativity to come out like it does in an incubator. So curious how you advise teams, or you yourself and your team manage failure and keep iterating until you come up with something that works. And what is that experience like?
Well, one of my friends who is very successful entrepreneur, he said that your main goal as a founder is to kill ideas as fast as possible, and the ones which are strong, they will survive.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I'm not there yet. It's really hard because once you have the idea and you love it, and it's very hard, to try to kill something you love.
Mm-hmm.
But I very much believe that survive only that founder who puts his ego behind the success of the company. And it's really hard. It's really hard at some point to say that I'm not the right CEO anymore, or to say that the product I have created actually doesn't bring value, cannot be marketed, doesn't work out. We need to think of something new. But that's absolutely the only way. So we have done two pivots on our way. So we had a completely different company as an idea in the beginning. We were trying to do robotics, and we were really attached to this idea. And I think that this being flexible, being able to hear the customer that he says, I don't need it, and to understand that and to find this balance between the skepticism that is always in the air. Nobody will tell us, oh, this is so cool, I'm going to buy it for $1 million. Nobody would do that. But you tell people, pilot, try it, let's work on it together. We very much value your opinion. And finding this balance between healthy skepticism and that people really don't need it, and finding the right turning point, to something new. This is the key to success. And I think this is very much about like personality and about luck, of course. When the right person tells you the right thing and you understand, and this aha moment comes.
How
So
do you I think based on your story that you've had this experience, but if not, maybe you know somebody. But how do you find companies who are willing to invest in your product before it's even, fully, I guess, built? How do you get people to, or organizations to buy into your vision? When it's not, totally concrete yet.
you knock the doors. So there is no simple answer here. You just go to people and talk to people and try to communicate as much as possible. And do it not the way that you're the smartest guy. This is very important. And to tell people that you appreciate really what they are doing right now, and that you have this idea, you have this technology, you have this team, and you want it to make better for them. So I believe that this honest appreciation of what people are doing is very important at this stage. And of course, a lot of people will say, oh, this is interesting, I don't have time. Oh, this is interesting, I don't have money, resources, anything else, whatever. But it's actually possible to find these first ones who will start working with you, and then the next. Now I feel like we have just overcame that. It's hard to switch from we are supporting you, we want to pilot, we want to give you feedback, and we want to pay you money. So these are different things. But still, I just think that it's very important to stay, like, to try and try and try and try.
You know, I would think my perception would be in the startup market that it's been a very male dominated playing field. How has it been for you as a woman coming up in math, and how have you, any advice on how to be successful when, maybe it's not as easy?
So I'm from the technical background, and I was always surrounded mostly by guys. So in the university, this makes you slightly a star because you're the only girl or just a few girls around you. But there was no skepticism at earlier level. I feel something sometimes as being like a leader of the team, and on different levels. So I really sometimes I hear that people do not want to communicate with me because you're a girl. It's very hard to explain this to a guy how this works, but as a girl you always feel that this is about it. And I had really serious once conflict with our developer, who just told me basically literally that you're a woman, you don't understand how things works. Yeah, so these things happen from time to time. I feel more skepticism talking to in the industry with adult people, so this is interesting mostly about, like, I don't know, 55 plus gentlemen with a long life and long experience. And I'm 28, and I come and say that what you've been doing before is not correct, and I know how to do it in a right way. So I think here it's okay that they're skeptical, that's understandable. And like, your goal here is just with your actions to show that you're smart enough. So it's not nice. I don't like it. I don't like this kind of skepticism. I don't like that people are rude sometimes. But I understand that the only thing that I can do is just build my reputation. That's
Do
what I'm
you
doing.
do you find that motivating at all? Like, oh, you think I can't do it? I'm gonna so let me prove
I'm
you
not that
wrong.
kind of person,
No, you're not.
I'm not that
Okay.
kind of person. I like when people tell me, "Oh, you're so nice, you're so cool. This is an amazing product. This is what inspires me." So no, it's not frustrating. So it's annoying. It doesn't, of course, stop me. But no, I don't feel any motivation.
No. No.
I was once I was climbing a mountain, and I tried to. I thought that it would be much easier than it was. And on day two, I tried to motivate myself that I will prove myself that I can do it. And it was like, no, I can't motivate myself with that. My motivation was that there were people in the group with me, and I couldn't give up because they will have to go to home too. Some kind of
The peer pressure,
responsibility.
yes. I
Yeah.
don't want to disappoint anybody. Yes.
Yeah.
I definitely am motivated by not disappointing people. Well, this has been a great conversation. I'd love to hear, any sort of like 3 tips, working in the working with disruptive technologies in the industry that you're in, that, either that you've said already or that we haven't got to talk about that you'd like to bring up.
Well, as a startup, I would say that it's very important to, um, first of all, understand the business very well and make sure that the disruption which you bring is a disruption in a good way, that you don't spoil the business that is really operating. It's very easy to bring something like that. And I see even from some of our competitors, why do we see our advantage is that we have it on the slide, we don't disrupt your processes, because it's very important. Yeah, so you bring disruptive technology without disrupting the working business. So this is one thing. The other thing I would say, it's about the similar thing, but communicate with client very openly, and tell about the challenges that you have and get the honest feedback. This is the most important thing, because you want to be adaptive and make your technology and your product better so that people love it and that they enjoy it and eventually they pay you. And also, when working with large companies, I would tell here that be prepared that this is a long process, because this is also a very frustrating thing for a lot of startups, and you need to keep it in mind. We are currently working with one of the largest companies in the industry, and it took us 6 months to get to the call with the right person. And it's okay. So you need just to keep this in mind when you're creating your business plans, financial plans, that it takes time, but you just need to do it because eventually you will be in the right place and right time.
Sounds like perseverance is an important quality.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been great. How can people find out more about you and what you do and connect?
Feel free to contact me via LinkedIn. So I'm answering people, and and we have all the links to the websites there, so you can learn more about our technology.
Well, great. Thanks so much for being a guest today.
Thank you. Thank you.
And to our audience, until next time, keep your corporations healthy.